Welcome back to Module 4, where we're going through and talking about all the different options as far as formatting your paragraphs. This is Section 3, where I want to talk to you a little bit about working with indents. There are going to be times when you want to indent the left side of a paragraph. Normally you'd hit the Tab key to do that, but notice that that will actually only indent the first line and only indents it at the half-inch mark. You're going to want to indent the whole thing, or maybe you want to indent both sides. So let me show you how the indents work. Normally, if you were in a paragraph and you wanted to indent the first line, you just hit the Tab key on your keyboard. That's certainly okay to do. Tab stops at every half-inch on the ruler. So if you look at your ruler, you've got this top indent here called a first line indent, and you've indented the first line at the half-inch mark. That's not going to help very much if you wanted to indent this line at 3/4 of an inch, or it's not going to help you if you want to indent the whole left side of that paragraph. So that's where the indents are going to come into play. Here's how they work. The top one, the arrow that points down, is called a first line indent. It will indent the first line of every paragraph you have selected. So let me show you how that works. I'm going to select these top two paragraphs, and I'm just going to pull this over to 3/4 of an inch like this. And now both paragraphs, the first line only, is indented at 3/4 of an inch. All right, let me undo that one. The next one I want to show you is the arrow that points up right here. That's called a hanging indent. That means that the first line is going to stay and everything else is going to be indented. So I'm going to grab that one. Notice I'm not going to grab the square on the bottom because the square on the bottom will move them both. But see how the first line stayed and everything else is indented now? Can you think of a good example of a hanging indent? How about numbers? I don't know if you noticed, but when we typed in numbers, that created a hanging indent. Let me show you that real quick. I'm going to go to File and create a new blank document for a second. We had typed in 4 first names earlier. We had Alan, Bob, Carol, and Doug. Now, if I select these and I turn on the numbers, look at your indents up here. The way they work with numbers is the first one controls the number, and this one actually controls the text next to the number. So if I decided that I needed more space between the number and the text, I would grab the one that points up and drag over. See that? Or if I decided the number should be closer to the left margin, I can drag back over like this. So it works the same way with numbers. Let me flip back over to where we were, our Burke flyer. Now the little box on the bottom is going to move them both. So if I click the box and move it over, see how they're both moving? I'm going to go ahead and undo that and put these back together. Let's say I want to indent the whole left margin of both of these paragraphs. As long as I grab this little box on the bottom, notice I'm indenting the whole left margin there. There's also an indent over on the right, so if you wanted to pull this in, you'll see that you can now make a paragraph or two actually stand out a little bit because you've changed the margins for those two paragraphs only. Notice it didn't affect any of the other areas of my document. So that's a quick overview of how the indents work. I'm going to go ahead and undo this. And the next thing I want to talk to you about are working with your tabs. So let's move over to